Hello and welcome back yet again to another edition of the Bibbs Corner podcast. I am your host, Mike Bibbins, on Twitter at Bibbs Corner, at Bibbs Film for the strictly film stuff. And I'm joined today by my guy, Tyler Lennon. And usually if you see Tyler's name, it's going to be horror. But this is a little bit different. It's not really horror. It's more of a crime thriller, biographical movie in a way. It's based on true events. So, Tyler, welcome,
dude. Thanks for having me. I will say it feels horror adjacent. I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire horror fan base, but we claim anything that's even remotely close. So I'm here for it.
It definitely has some very tense moments. Like I don't know personally. I didn't know anything about this story going in, so I did not know exactly how some certain scenarios were going to play out. We'll get into that later in the spoiler section. But this is a special occasion. I know usually I'm been reviewing blockbuster movies on here. I'm starting to transition and try to get back into my indie movie bag. And this is one that I had the privilege of getting a screener for. And I'm just going to read you through the synopsis, first of all, for Holy Spider. So Holy Spider follows a female journalist, Rahimi, played by Zar Amir Ebrahimi. She travels to the Iranian holy city of Mashhad to investigate a serial killer who believes he is doing the work of God, cleansing the streets of sinners by murdering sex workers. As his body count mounts and Rahimi draws closer to exposing the crimes, the opportunity for justice grows harder to attain as the Spider Killer is embraced by many as a hero. Based on the horrific true story of serial killer Saeed Hanaei, acclaimed director Ali Abbasi of Border unveils a gripping crime thriller and a daring indictment of a society in which rough justice is routinely a fact of life. It's a lot of words.
Yeah, I was about to say, of all the synopsises we've read, that was a long, detailed one for sure.
And I don't mind reading it because you kind of need to know all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole time I was like, this is long. But I was like, well, I mean, it's all relevant.
Right. So that's the synopsis. I'm going to give you a couple more main things to know before we get into this. This movie, Holy Spider, is the official Danish submission for the Academy Awards, or Oscars, as you may know them, for Best International Feature. So it has been submitted. It will be in the count. I get a lot of these Best International Feature movies sent to me, and I have had ones that made it to the nominee list in the past. So I would say just right off the bat that I could definitely see this one making that list.
I'm definitely rooting for it. I was curious about that. After I watched it and was waiting to do this, I was kind of curious about that. I was like, I wonder how many of the ones he receives in the past have gotten nominations. And I could definitely see this being a Best International, at least one of the nominees. And like I said, I'm definitely rooting for it. Obviously I haven't seen everything that's submitted for the category, but I have a hard time believing there's a ton out there that I would prefer over this.
Yeah. So I know usually they try to diversify a little bit with the Best International. So I could definitely see it sneaking in just based on that alone of being able to tell different stories. Cause again, the first thing that gripped me was I didn't even think about the fact that there are serial killers in, I would say other parts of the world, but you and I both listen to true crime podcasts. So they'll cover usually crimes in Australia,
right,
Canada. So obviously we know that, but this is getting outside of the Western world, if you will. And the fact that it that was the first thing that caught my attention. It was serial killer Iran. It's wow, I didn't even think about the idea of there being a serial killer in Iran.
Dude, I had that exact same thought because again, you and I, which we talk a lot, and it's not just about movies. It's a lot of movies. It's a lot of math. But you and I, again, like you mentioned, we talk a good bit about true crime and the idea that neither of us knew this story at all. And I kind of had the same thought you had. I was like, well, I guess I don't know that much international true crime. And I thought, like you said, Australia, the Ivan Milat, we know that story. But I kind of had the exact same thought. I was like, dude, this is happening everywhere. And of course, I'm sure it's more well covered in those areas, obviously. But like, yeah, we people like us don't hear a ton about this. So I think it's really cool, one, to get those stories out there and for them to be told. But I just think, we have that a lot in American culture. I mean, the most famous thing here recently was the Jeffrey Dahmer, series or whatever. And I think it's really cool to see that from other countries and from different perspectives and have other storytellers telling those stories. Because another thought that I had, sorry, I'm kind of being long-winded right now, but one of the thoughts I did have was I'm glad that this is a foreign film, because I could see Americans wanting to tell the story and kind of whitewashing it. They weren't there. They don't know it very well. So like that was a legit thought I had as I was watching this movie. Like, I'm glad these are the people that made it and they're telling the story. You know what I mean?
Right. The cultural touches that you would potentially lose if it was being done by an Iranian director, led by an Iranian actress. And that's going to lead me directly into where I was going next. So the director is Ali Abbasi, who has had a past film nominated for an Oscar, the movie Border. He actually won Best Director for this year's Fantastic Fest for this movie. The movie is starring Zar Amir Ebrahimi. She won Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival,
which is huge. Yeah, for people that don't know, that's huge.
Yeah, so that's one of the big festivals, and again, she won Best Actress for this role at Cannes. So that's a huge deal, I would say.
And it also something with TIFF, right? It was either shown at TIFF or maybe it was an award at TIFF or a nominee or something.
I can go through,
which is another big festival.
I can go through the award list right now. It's not that long. So she did win Best Actress. Ali was nominated for director as well at Cannes. There's a couple of smaller ones. I'm trying to see if anyone were. No, I don't see TIFF on here.
Okay.
I don't see TIFF on here, but yeah, the fact that it's making waves at a major festival is certainly worth mentioning. And I believe, just from my understanding of the way the Academy works, you have to get nominated or make it into certain festivals to even be able to submit a film. Like, you can't just submit random films.
Right. And that's why I always like to keep up with, not, as closely as you would the Oscars necessarily, but like you're mentioning winning awards at Cannes and stuff. I always love keeping up with that, because a lot of the time, not to get either one of us in trouble, but like there's definitely a formula with the Academy Awards, and one that, like, I'm not speaking for both of us, but not everyone agrees with. So I think I like keeping up with those other festivals, especially some of the bigger ones, but that not everyone knows about, you know what I mean? And seeing how they perform there.
Exactly. And again, the fact that she won Best Actress is a very strong sign for them potentially getting in at the Oscars. So with that said, I think we've done enough intro, enough setup. Overall, we're going to do non-spoilers here in the beginning without getting into any detail. But overall, how did you feel about the film as a whole? Like,
I loved it. Which I will say it seems to be very well received so far. I happened to look on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was an 84% with a 93% audience. So it seems to be getting, be very well received so far. And I loved it. I think you had kind of alluded earlier. It's very much a thriller. It might kind of lean into the horror side, but to me, it felt exactly how I want a thriller to feel. And there were a couple of times where it got really close to that edge, but kind of stayed in its lane, but did so really effectively. It was a super fun watch. And even, I think sometimes people have a harder time watching foreign films just because, you don't understand the language. You're having to read the subtitles. You're having to be more locked in and more focused. And I never once, at any point, granted, I use subtitles for everything, but I never once felt like it was a task. It was, right. I was locked in at all times. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
There's a lot of time. It's not a movie that's big on dialogue, and I think that made it a lot easier. There's a lot of things that are happening without words needing to be said, which if you are a person that doesn't love subtitles and you don't want to be constantly reading, it gives you that. Like there were times where I was like, did I miss something? Because I felt like I hadn't been reading anything in a while.
Right.
It's because the action is carrying the movie. Yeah, overall, I can definitely say I enjoyed it. I went in as blind as possible. I didn't even watch the trailer. The description was enough for me to watch the movie. And when it comes in right in your face, and I wish I had phrased that way.
You pulled a me.
Yeah, I did. I did exactly what you did on the broadcast the other day.
I'm bad luck.
But the movie is about a serial killer killing sex workers, and the movie opens with a very raw depiction of what sex work looks like. And do you think it was necessary, or did you think that it was too much shock value?
The very first thing I wrote in my notes here, and I'm usually not like a super detailed note taker. I was this time. The very first note I have in my phone is the hell Bibbs got me watching. So I think definitely again, like we'll obviously get to spoilers and stuff later, but I think it really set the tone just for what the movie is, honestly.
Right. And we'll get to it more into detail probably in the spoiler section, but if you're going into this, heads up, right off the bat, you're getting some nudity. Right off the bat, you're getting some sexual content. And if that bothers you, then be aware. If you don't want to watch that, I fully understand.
If that bothers you, buckle up, because not long after you get another one. So it gave it 2 right out the gate.
There's like 3 straight back to back to, like, again, like you said, set the tone, and it doesn't stay that way. Like after that, it gets more into the characters. But again, the thing I like about that is that it made us feel sympathetic towards the victims.
Yes.
Rather than just making them victims. Like they could have opened on a body being found, and then that's just a body to us. They introduced us to who this person was.
Yeah, that was something I also wanted to make note of as well. I think a lot of the time, not everything needs to be compared to something, but for someone that was asking, what kind of movies would you compare it to? I do think of a movie like Zodiac. And when you think about serial killer movies, a lot of the time you don't know anything about the victim. You probably don't care anything about the victim. It's just like you said, it's just a body. And I thought they did a really good job of making sure, like, it's not just, you know what I mean? Like, these are actual people who were dying.
Exactly. And I'll say overall, before we get into the spoilers, they did a great job of telling multiple sides of the story. So we spend a lot of time with the killer. We spend a lot of time with the journalist who's trying to figure out what's going on. We get to know what the cops think. We get to know what the religious leaders think. And we spend a decent amount of time with the victims and their families as well for this type of movie, something that, like you said, we don't get a ton of. And I like the Zodiac comparison as well. It is a longer movie because it has to do all those things. It is almost 2 hours. I believe the runtime 1 hour 56 minutes is what I have. But I didn't feel like there was anything you really could take out.
No, I agree. One of the other things I kind of want to get to in the non-spoiler section, like I want to make sure everything that can be talked about there does. You had mentioned the acting earlier, and obviously there's a Best Actress winner already at Cannes. I thought, sometimes I think I think sometimes as maybe American viewers might struggle with foreign films in terms of like gauging how good the acting is. Because again, a lot of the time, just with the language barrier, you're having to read the lines. And I think sometimes you're not fully grasping it. You know what I mean? The same way you would if you weren't having to dissect it that way. And to me, there was never a question of like, oh, I don't know if the acting is good in this or not. Like, no, it was very clear that the acting was very good.
Right. And I do think it was because she's able to use her full range. It wasn't just the words. It was how she reacted to certain situations, how she handled certain situations, because it's not just that she's investigating this killer. There's other things that she's having to navigate as a woman in a area that is very fundamentally Muslim. And
yes,
it seems
and like you mentioned, there's times where there's not dialogue at all, and the acting is still great without dialogue.
Right. Is there anything else we should or can say in this non-spoiler section?
Uh not really. Other than I will say you had kind of mentioned that with the I do like the story they told for sure from a bunch of different women's perspective. Again, I don't feel like that's too spoilery. If it is, we can save that. But yeah, I did really like that message of the movie. Even the main character herself is really having to go above and beyond in a lot of areas that her male counterpart is not having to. You know what I mean?
Right. There's so many angles of this film that work. Again, if you just are into the crime thriller genre, it worked for me there.
Yeah.
If you want to learn about, the culture and of Iran and specifically the holy city, if you will, like you'll get an idea of that. You get to know the people, how they think, how they operate. And like you just said, that there are many victims here that we get to know their lives a little bit. They're not all the same.
Right.
Like they're not all in the same situation. And that's important, I think, is to diversify those women and give them a fuller characterization, I guess. Usually you hear, oh, he's killing prostitutes, and you just assume, oh, they're all the same. But no, they're all living very different lives with very different family situations as well.
100%. One of the last things I would say in the non-spoiler section is just if anyone were to, ask me what I thought of the movie, this is definitely, and I'm someone who rewatches movies to begin with, but this is definitely one that I almost can't wait to rewatch. And I would definitely, if you have the opportunity to see it, I would 1000% see this movie.
Before we move to the spoiler section, rating. I just did mine. If you want me to go first, I will. But what's your?
No, yeah, you got it.
Okay, so my rating scale. I'll go over it though. It's first thing, did they accomplish what they set out to do? On a scale of 1 to 5, I gotta say a 5. They definitely accomplished their mission with this one. Overall entertainment value or ability to recommend this movie. It is raw. It is foreign. It is long. I got to knock it a little bit. So I'm going to say a 3 out of 5 for recommendability. Very good movie. Not going to be for everybody, for sure.
I'm right there with you on that one as well. I think from that stance, and again, it doesn't really have anything to do with the movie itself, because like you said, there are just certain things that for whatever reason aren't going to apply to certain people. I'd go just a tiny bit higher than you. I would go 3.5, maybe even 4. But again, I can think of a ton of people who watch a lot of movies that wouldn't watch it simply because maybe they're not into true crime. Maybe they're not into thrillers. Maybe they're not into foreign films that they're having to read the subtitles and everything. So I'd go just a little higher, maybe 3.5.
Okay. The next category is emotional connection. So did I connect to the story? Did I connect to the people in the story? And on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm giving that a 4. And the only reason I'm not giving it a 5 is my 5 is like, you got to make me cry. You gotta break me down. You gotta make me reevaluate my life. So I can't give it the full 5. I gotta knock it down to 4 on that scale. The fourth thing is X Factor. Was there great acting? Was there something completely fresh that I've never seen before? Did it do something very special? And I'm giving it a 4 there as well, out of 5. We mentioned the acting already. It was something new, but not something new, if that makes sense. Like, it was new to me to see a serial killer in Iran, but there was a lot, and there was some nuance, but it wasn't far off from what we're used to seeing with these types of people. I almost gave some stuff away. The last one, and this is kind of the last two kind of go together, because the last one is, did it keep me on my toes? Did it keep me guessing? I hate predictability in a movie. This movie is not predictable at all. There were several moments, especially in probably the third act, where I was not sure where this was going, and it kept me guessing. It's really up until the very end. Again, I almost spoiled some stuff, so I give it a 5 on keeping me on my toes. So overall, that comes out to a 4.2, and I think I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's really, really, really spot on. Eventually, one of these days, I'm going to make sure I bring the same scale as you do. But I'm right there with you. I'm trying to think what mine would be, because I always do 1 to 10, and I think I had it somewhere at like an 8 to 8.5, which would be a 4. You know, that would be a 4. If you're going to 8.5, that would be 4.2 in that range.
Yeah.
I think that's breaking down each category the way you did. I agreed with a lot of them. I was maybe half a point higher on some of them. Again, I can't even really talk about the last category because I know that I'm accidentally going to get into spoiler territory. But I would go right in that same range. Probably if it were on that 1 to 5 range, I'm going 4.2 probably. Like, I'm right there with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad we're on the same page. But yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. It's, for me, getting back into reviewing these indie films. This isn't the first one. The first one I did was a documentary. So I'll say the indie scripted films. This was a great first one to dive into.
Yeah, I was pumped that you let me hop on this one with you, because I'm really into more in horror when it comes to indie, just because that's, you know, my favorite genre and everything. But of all the indie films that I could have hopped on with you, like, for this to be the first one, like, I was like, dude, that's a great first one to do.
Awesome. Let's take a quick pause, and then we'll get into these spoilers, because I know you got a lot to get through. All right. Welcome back. We are in the spoiler section. If you're still here, because I don't think I have an ad in the middle right now, and you are potentially thinking about watching this movie, you have not watched it yet, I would exit out and come back after you watch the movie, because I'm assuming we're about to get into some very, very detailed details. So first thing off the bat, I have to say, before we get into themes and things of that nature, I got to talk about moments. So standout moments in this movie, right out the bat, like we said, immediately. So let me set the stage. The only thing I remembered about this movie going in was that it was going to follow a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was a serial killer movie. So when we came into the movie and the first thing I see is a topless woman, and then she's out, the first thing I thought was, oh, is this one of those movies? It's just going to be
right,
like just raw as hell. And then, because I was thinking the woman that I was seeing was a journalist at first.
I was right there with you. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I guess it's just one of those movies. There's going to be a lot of nudity. We're going to see her nude a lot for no reason. Okay.
And then I was like, and then she starts going in the streets, and I think she met a dude. They were getting it in. And she was in a car with a dude and saw some stuff I didn't need to see at all.
Yeah, you see a lot of nudity. You don't see a ton of male nudity though, and usually, I think I even texted on the spot. I was like, "What are we watching, dude?"
And then I was still half at that point. I was still a little bit like, "Is this reporter embedded? Like, is she undercover?
Right? Is
she just going all out? Like, what is happening?"
I had that thought in my mind as well, because all I know about the movie, again, like you said, a reporter trying to catch a serial killer, and I was like, "All right, she's already in the thick of it. Like, she's been covering this for months." She is all the way undercover.
Like, I've heard of embedded reporters, but this seems a bit over the top. Like, what are we doing? So that was the first thing that caught my attention, and then you get to her getting picked up and murdered. How are you feeling at that point?
So that was the second thing I took a note of. The first one was what the hell Bibbs got me watching. The second one was specifically on that first strangulation scene, and I thought the tenseness of that, I honestly thought it was more effective than a lot of horror movies that I watch. A lot of time you're watching a horror movie and you're like, dude, I understand what you're going for right now. I'm seeing the kill, but it's just not working for me. And I thought that was really tense. I thought they did a really good job on that. And obviously we'll get to more of those as we get to them, but to me grew each time. Every moment like that got a little more tense, I felt like.
No, I agree. And I think with these types of movies, that's usually not what happens at all. Usually you're numb to what's happening. But,
right, exactly.
But I felt every single one. And that first one felt crazy because I was like, is this the journalist? Like, is she gonna escape? Like, what is happening? Right. And then she doesn't. And I was like, oh crap, like what is happening here?
Right. No, I was right. Because every now and then you do get the cold open where like the main character dies and you're like, are we going back in time now? Or like what's going on? Yeah, I was right there with you.
All right. So we got that. Did you want to go? What was your next note?
The next note actually isn't for about 20 minutes, but I think that's because we get that that sets the tone with the killer, and then we start to learn more about the protagonist, the journalist herself.
Okay.
Why can I not remember her name? What was her name?
The character or the actress?
The character, yeah.
Give me once. I'm gonna pull it back.
Miss Rahimi or something along those lines. Is what they mainly referred to her as, but
I had it Rahimi.
Rahimi, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so now we're really learning more about her, and you know, she's getting on in the case. She meets up with another journalist who's more local. He's actually
we got to start with her introduction right off the bat. The first time we see her is trying to check into the hotel.
I don't
remember that scene.
No. Okay, walk me through.
Talk about that because we've transitioned from the kill straight to her trying to check into the hotel, and like the guy's giving her a hard time at the check-in.
Oh, yeah. He
was like, this woman's trying to check in, but she's not married. And then he like comes back and he's like, yeah, we're sorry. There must have been a glitch in the system. We're booked up.
Forgot about that. Yeah, and she's having to show different IDs and all that stuff. Yeah, okay, I do remember that.
So, and she was like, whatever. I'm a journalist. Give me my room. Like, don't.
Yeah, and that sets her journey immediately. That sets the tone for everything that she's going to go through throughout the course of this movie. Just the fact that she is a woman alone, almost everything she does, it's not like you got to go above and beyond. You can't just check into a hotel like a normal person.
Right. So they didn't like that she was checking into a hotel by herself. We immediately thrust into that world and understanding what she's having to navigate on top of.
And this being right after we've seen a woman be murdered.
Right.
You
could tell she wasn't as comfortable with the head coverings throughout the movie. Like she's always adjusting it.
And that's even like someone makes a note of it themselves, or like,
right.
Like you're doing that for my benefit or whatever. Like I get it.
When they went to visit the religious leader, she's like sitting there fidgeting the whole time. Like, I know you're putting on a show for me. Like,
right.
Like, and it's, I get it. We don't get to see this part of the world a lot. So I appreciated getting to know a lot of different personalities and viewpoints from that area in this movie.
Yeah. And I felt kind of bad because like that's something in my everyday life. Like I don't think about that. You know what I mean? Because again, like you just don't see much of it. So again, like I was really grateful to have that story told.
Right. And then like, even, you mentioned he brought that up, that he could tell she was just wearing it for him. He didn't say it in a way that was like mean. Like he said it in a way of like acknowledgement. Like,
right.
I know that you're not really this level of religious that I am. He didn't say it appreciatively necessarily, but it was usually if an American person did that scene, is not coming off that way. Like it's coming off.
No, 1,000%.
I'm super religious and you're a woman and I hate you. Like that's how
1,000%. And then pretty much to me, the next thing that we learn about her is she is at a new, not newspaper necessarily. She's at a new job. And it was because something had happened with her old job. And now there's two sides to that, even because the religious leader, like you're talking about, and I think even the other journalist she's working with, they've heard the story as she was sleeping with her editor.
Right.
And what we actually find out is no, the editor kept making passes at her. She not only declined those passes, but reported him, which got her fired. So what we know about this woman so far is like, again, it's just, the struggle to even do that. And now not only did that happen to her, not only does she lose her job for that, people think that she's this, they could like literally refer to as a whore. Like, So,
and that's important. Again, that's very important to the story. it doesn't distract from the story, I don't think, because it's her journey.
Right.
And it to me, it enhances the story because we know she's going out of her way into an uncomfortable territory to begin with. She's covering a serial killer who targets women, and she's dealing with the stigma of being a woman in a profession that in her area is not commonly led by women. She's having to deal with men who don't necessarily see her as valuable or see her as less than because of this story, which honestly should be very relatable. I would say for even the American audience can relate to stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it doesn't take away from the story at all. I actually, not only do I agree, I think it really plays into the story because I think there's a lot of arguments to be made. She's going the extra mile and doing all of these things. One, because she's used to having to do that in everyday life, but two, also to really prove herself as even worthy. You know what I mean? Because again, people look at her as like, well, she has this job now because she was sleeping around with her boss at her other one. Now she's willing to do all this extra stuff of like, no, not only am I good at my job, like I'm going to work harder than y'all. I'm going to do the things that y'all aren't willing to do. And it's probably also why she was as interested in the story itself as she was. You know, there's a serial killer killing prostitutes. No one cares that much. Well, I care about this. Let's uncover this.
Yes, and let's talk about her colleague, the local journalist that was covering the story. How do you feel about him?
He was probably the only character aside from her who didn't suck. He did have a moment early in the movie where he asked her about it, and then from that point on, he's helping her throughout the story. Couple times where he has access to things that she doesn't have access to, so he tries to get her that hookup. I don't think even the time where she goes on the crime scene, I don't think she would have been there if it weren't for him. Like he took her there, he got her the access there, and they make a comment of like, see, we knew this wasn't a place for a woman. When she comes up with her plan at the end, he's there to help her. And he actually seemed like the one person that was like, I have respect for you on a human level. I'm not just trying to get in your pants. I'm not just like, I care about you.
Yeah, and I like that they did have that moment early on where he does, like, clearly he believed the rumors about her.
Right.
But he quickly changes his tune when he hears the story from her, and he's like, I'm sorry, like, this is how it was told to me, but hearing it from your side changes things.
Absolutely. I thought, I mean, that was my exact takeaway from it. And I actually kind of like that they included that scene. Like, he approaches like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, that's just what I'd heard.
Right.
Why would I not believe that? But I get you. I believe your story. That's my fault. Honest mistake. I apologize. And then for the rest of the movie, he clearly changes.
Right. And he, again, I like that it's not, this person is perfect. This person is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Like he made a mistake. He owned a mistake. I was concerned early on that he was going to like hold her back or like try to stop her from going as far as she was wanting to go. But he didn't. He helped her at every turn, like you said. Like when she asked, because the serial killer was calling him directly.
Yes.
And after kills to talk to him. And she was like, I bet you aren't even recording him. Because she expected he wasn't taking his job seriously too. So again.
And it kind of was portrayed that way early in the movie. He made comments of like, I think he even straight up told her like, you're wasting your time. This isn't worth pursuing. And then when she asked why he hadn't gone the extra mile, he just kind of blew it off as like, it's the higher ups. What can you do? That sort of thing.
Right. Like he clearly had a little bit of an interest in it, but it wasn't enough to like push his bosses to like, we should take this more seriously. So,
right.
Which is why she was there in the first place. And she was like, so this guy's calling you. I bet you don't even have his voice recorded, because she's looking at him like you're a waste of time and waste of space. And he's like, tap, got it.
Got you.
Need.
Got you.
And again, he's walking her. He's the one reason she was able to meet with the religious leader to get an idea of, what was going down and how they were viewing it. And I like the dynamic overall. I like that they didn't force anything on the back end with like them having a relationship or him trying to be like, you could tell he was kind of feeling her a little bit, but
yeah, absolutely. And I kind of expected in the back of my mind that like when they part ways, he's going to shoot a shot. I kind of thought that was, he's been just a stand-up guy this entire time, but like, I still got to shoot my shot. I kind of thought that's maybe where that was going. But like you said, I'm glad. And also, if it's a true story, I mean, you got to follow the story, but still, I'm glad that isn't the route they took.
No, definitely. Let's see. What else do we have?
So what I thought was interesting, if you don't mind, I'm pretty sure kind of where we're at now. So you had mentioned we see a bunch of different sides. The opening, the kind of cold open, I guess you would call it, is with a prostitute who ends up being killed. Then we get the journalist, and then we start seeing more about the serial killer in his everyday life. He's really not happy. He mentions, I think he's a carpenter or a builder of some sort. He might even have his own business, or he's the boss of this business or whatever. But he makes a comment to one of his friends, like, there's got to be more than this. Like, God has a bigger plan for me than to just do this. And even, he sees a newspaper, that's talking about the killers or the killer, and people, that are just in the street are like, oh, I've heard it's a gang of people. It's not one person. And he seems to be a little bothered by that. I made note of it anyway. I couldn't tell if he was bothered or just amused that they were talking about it, but we do get to see more and more about the killer, and just, he's not happy with his place in life.
Yeah. They give us the killer. They don't necessarily go out of their way to make him look like a terrible person. Like he's got kids that he cares for.
Right.
In the beginning, the stuff that he's doing apparently isn't bleeding into his life. And then that changes.
Yes, very much so. Throughout the movie, again, it's kind of a gradual climb. There's a couple moments, like you said earlier, it didn't seem to really be bleeding into his everyday life at all. And then we see him slowly start slipping up a little bit to the point at the end. You're like, you're going to get caught. Like, someone is going, I don't even think she's going to be the one that catches you. I think your wife or your kids, or like someone's going to catch you doing this.
Yeah, it was a, how can I say this it was an interesting de-evolution, and it didn't even end the way I thought it would. Should we just cover his entire arc at this point? Pretty much.
I'm down for that. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. What was the first moment? Was it when he snapped at his son when they went on the picnic?
That was the first one that I remember him really snapping. Yeah. Let me make sure I don't have any notes between there. I'm not seeing any between there.
Okay. So again, early on, we know what he's doing. We know he's blowing his wife off to go see her parents and stuff like that.
Yeah, and she is catching on, not that he's a serial killer, just that something's going on. She thinks he's probably cheating on him, if anything, because she makes a comment like, my parents have noticed you don't come around anymore. You just drop us and the kids off. You're spending a lot of time just by yourself. And then later in the movie, someone tells her that they saw him picking up a woman on his bike.
Yeah, so she's thinking, he's cheating, and I'm guessing they go to see her family usually on Thursdays, and that's the day he's killing women, pretty much. So that's his day when he has the house to himself. It wasn't clear.
Some people watch Thursday night football. Some people do that,
It wasn't clear initially that he was bringing them back to his house on the first kill, I should say. But then on subsequent kills, they show him playing with his daughter in the living room, and then he drops his family off, and then he brings the woman to his living room. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. At one point, not only he takes a woman back to his house, kills her, and then he's trying to get rid of the body. His wife comes back. She left something at the house, and you get that was maybe one of the most tense, like, creepy scenes of the whole movie.
Yeah.
They're having sex on the floor, and he looks over. He had wrapped her up in a rug, kind of, and you can see her foot kind of hanging out of the rug.
Yeah,
that legit was one of the most creepy, tense scenes of the movie.
That was tough, because I was like, does he really see the foot, or is he imagining the foot?
Yeah, that's fair.
Then I was like, is the wife gonna see the foot? And again, that scene worked on two levels, because one, we again are introduced to his wife. We get to know his wife. We see that she's fearing that she's losing her husband. So she's made an excuse to come home while the kids aren't there, to try to like, hey, do you still want this? Like, do you still want me?
Right.
And so then he has to prove like, hey, I do still want you. And in the midst of that, he's like rolled the body up in a carpet. The wife tries to unravel the carpet at one point. He's like, don't worry about that. And then she gets what she needs. And apparently she didn't notice the body in the carpet. So I don't know if the foot wasn't sticking out or if he got up and covered the foot up immediately.
Yeah. And further to that point, I don't know how graphic we're trying to be here, but they're having sex and he seems his mind's like anywhere but that. But then when he notices the foot, the sex seems to be way more enjoyable for him. So again, to your point, like the foot may have never been visible. That's just something he's kind of using, you know what I mean?
Right. I can agree that it definitely seemed he ratcheted up, if you will, when he saw the foot. And it's not uncommon. I mean, you listen to a lot of true crime too. It's not uncommon for that thrill in the moment of a kill to like make you highly aroused, if you will.
Yeah, it definitely becomes like a sexual thing at some point, or not always, but for some killers.
Right. Like I've definitely heard of like a tandem of killers, like a man and woman commit a murder and like have sex beside the body. Like,
right. And to the point of kind of him rampant, like throughout the course of the movie, his arc, there is one scene where he does get the girl back to his house, and he has a very hard time killing this woman, but when he finally does, he almost like gets really sexually aroused and he kind of has to like stop himself, and he apologizes at that point, like to God. So I think it was getting to a point where it maybe was becoming a sexual thing for him.
Yeah. And I can't remember the order that he went in, but there were multiple times. So I think the one with the carpet with the wife, she had started to eat an apple before he killed her.
Yeah.
And she drops the apple under the couch. And I was like, are they going to pay that off? And like the next day, the daughter like finds the apple. And like he throws it out the window, and I was like, "Is the wife gonna go see the apple in the street with the?"
That was my very first thought, because he picks it up, and the reason why he has to get rid of it more than anything is there's a lipstick stain on it. Mm-hmm. And my very first thought was he's gonna throw it out the window, and the kid's like, "Hey, he threw it out the window. He threw it out the window," and I'm like, "Yeah, she's gonna go down there and find it." And I legit started to worry for the wife at one point, because again, when there was the foot, I was like, please don't see that foot, because he might have to kill you. And then I'm like, please don't go find that apple, because even though you're the wife, he might end up having to kill you. Like, I was worried for her.
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's like it gives you many moments. Again, we don't know the story as Americans.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if he kills his wife or not.
So we don't know if he kills his wife, family. We don't know who gets killed in this scenario. So everybody is at risk as far as we're concerned. So it worked for me on that level as well.
Absolutely. Also, I do want to mention the death that I was talking about, where he has a really hard time with it. I had mentioned earlier in the movie, not
the big girl, but the other one?
Yes, the bigger girl.
Okay.
So I had mentioned how throughout the movie, the strangulations and the like kill scenes kind of got more and more and more intense. That one was probably where it peaks for me. We have the scene where like at first she thinks he's just like, she's a prostitute. He has paid her. He's choking her. And at first she just thinks like she even makes a comment. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's what we're doing." And like then she starts fighting back. Like my man struggled with that one. But then, we had talked about maybe he's seeing things, maybe he isn't. You get the scene with her where after he's killed her, she's laughing or something. And he's like, "Oh, that's funny." We get that scene. Do you go back over there and it turned out she was probably not actually
the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was imagining the laughter, but that scene was great for multiple reasons. One, first, she initially just thought he was shy because he wasn't like touching her or nothing. Mm-hmm. Then he was like trying to rush her because she was taking her time in the bathroom. She's making jokes. And then, like you said, he starts to choke her and she's like, "Oh, we're getting rough." And I think she started to choke him back.
Yeah, she did.
And then I think she was doing it playfully initially.
At first she was, and then he has to I'm strangling you, and she starts strangling him back like for real.
Right.
And at first I thought she was maybe going to get away for a minute.
I thought she was going to whoop his ass and like leave.
I did too.
I thought she was going to get out of there. Unfortunately, she did not. And again, I didn't dig into the true story here, so I don't know if that's something that actually happened. But she whooped his ass.
Yeah, and because I'm on the same page as you, I didn't want to look into the story. I wanted it to be a movie. I wanted it to surprise me. But
Right.
there are a lot of famous serial. Ted Bundy has a very famous survivor who's told her story a number of times. So in the back of my head, that was a very real possibility. Like, oh, she might be the rare survivor from this story.
Right. I was hoping for it. Did not happen. When she was even when in the laughter scene, I thought she was like about to get up and like walk out.
It did get me. I was like, is she still alive? Like, damn.
Yeah. But and then how he disposed of her body. Again, she was a bigger girl.
That was rough.
The scene with him, like with her on the back of the bike, like strapped to him. I was like, oh man, like this is.
And I thought that played. Maybe I'm bugging. Sometimes I probably reach a little bit when I'm looking for messages and stuff. But I thought that may have played into just how tough a lot of the women had it, because the reason, for anyone that doesn't know, the way he disposes of her body is, again, he's as like a dirt bike kind of motorcycle type thing. He ties her body to his and they ride the motorcycle together. But because she's having to cover up her head and her face, it doesn't look like a dead body.
Right.
If that were in America, you couldn't have done that.
Right.
If it would be very clear that Shorty was dead.
Yeah, like you can't.
But he's just driving. Granted, it's like super late at night and everything, but there's other traffic. Cars are passing him and everything, and no one thinks like, oh, he's got a dead body.
Just looks like a woman riding on the back of a bike with him, as far as everybody else is concerned. And again, women weren't paid that much attention to anyway, so as long as she was covered, nobody really cared to deeper at what she had going on. Again, that was a rough scene. And you mentioned the scene where she goes on the scene of the crime. And this was before that murder, I believe.
Yeah, it was the murder of the woman with the apple, because earlier in the movie, she had sat down and had dinner with her. She knew her.
Right. So she was questioning why they weren't talking to the women. And, because again, in America, we think, the police usually have relationships with some of the women on the street. They can get an idea what's going on. The women, some of them will talk to them.
Yeah, and in some cases might even be like an informant or something.
Exactly. Like they'll let you know, like, hey, this guy's been creepy. He's been scaring the girls. But it was clear the police weren't talking to these women. The journalist wasn't talking to these women. So she took it upon herself to interact with this lady. And when we meet her, she's in a restaurant. Forget, did she ask for some food or something? I can figure what she asked
for. A cup of water.
Okay. So she asked for some water. I think she ends up going in the bathroom and throwing up. And I just think this woman is like bad off on drugs and sick or whatever. Later, after she's murdered, after she sees her on the crime scene, and she vomits on the crime scene. And again, like you said, the men say, this is why women don't belong here. I believe she only vomited because she recognized the lady.
She 1000% only vomited because not only did she recognize that woman, granted, we don't know the timeline here. It never says 4 days later or anything, but like she not only just saw this woman, but was trying to protect her, was trying to prevent this happening.
Exactly. So,
and I think she felt a little guilty that she scared her off. I think she felt like, damn, if I wouldn't have pressed so hard, if I could have maybe built a different relationship with her, she wouldn't be dead right now.
Exactly. So, that scene, and then later we find out she was probably throwing up because she was pregnant.
Yeah, that was rough.
And then we have to hear the police. Was it the other journalist or was it the cop that said?
I think it was the police, but
it had to be the police. It couldn't have been the other journalist, I don't think.
Made the comment about this woman out here being pregnant and still doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look at it as it's sad that she was pregnant and still was out here having to do that to make ends meet. He looked at it as this woman is so disgusting that she's pregnant out here still doing that.
It's a little messed up. In the conversation they had with the religious leader, I believe they talked to him more than once. I don't remember when it was, but he makes the comment of like, you think we as politicians don't care, but like it's our job. These women are doing this because they don't have money. They don't have another possibility. It's our job to provide a society where they don't have to do that. And you kind of think like, okay, maybe he does care. Maybe he is going to help. But at the end of the day, no, there's no change. They're not actually doing anything.
Right. And that scene surprised me as well. Because again, from as far as we know, they're supposed to, if it's against God or whatever, it's supposed to be condemned. But he seemed to have some level of sympathy for their situation, the fact that they had to be out there like that. So
Right.
that again was surprising, and again, good to see. That's the type of scene that I think helps it in that Oscar nominee thing, because it's one of those eye-opening scenes that's going to stick with somebody.
I agree. I think this whole movie, for that reason, it is the kind of movie that I think, I don't want to say would get nominations because of that, but like it needs to be. Like those type of movies need to get more, you know, if it's nominated for best international feature, think about how many more people are going to see that because it got that nomination. So I think we should have movies like that in there.
Exactly. I think you said you had very, very detailed notes. So have we missed anything that you mentioned that you had written down before we get into the capture?
From his arc? Not necessarily. There was more scenes that involved her. I had a couple. I don't know if you want to wait to get to those, or
we can transition to her now.
Okay. I think once we transition to her, we'll get to there, and then we'll get to the point. The third act, it kind of is very intertwined. So we have the scene, of course, the other journalist does start to be helpful. The only other person who's helpful in the first act, maybe the first two acts, first half of the movie anyway, is the police officer. He actually seems, at first, he's very like but more, I think the vibe that we get isn't because she's a woman or anything. It's like, you're a journalist, I'm a police officer, you think I'm not doing my job, you think you could do my job better than me, then you do it. You do my job for me. And then they start to get to know each other. He's helpful. He gives her access. He lets her on the scene. And he seems to genuinely care for her. And then he comes to her hotel room after the crime scene.
Before you get into that, when she has to look through some of the files from the crime, and he says, "Let's meet."
Yes.
I initially wanted to look at it as negative, but again, like you said, he seemed to be a stand-up guy at that point.
I was really torn at that part. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, so I was thinking, maybe he just doesn't want to give her the records to like run off with and print whatever she wants.
That is an argument to be made. Like, hey, we can't talk about that here.
Right.
But
because I've seen that before.
Right.
And it's like, I can let you see them if I'm there with you, and it's not here because one, most of his guys probably don't want her to see them, and two, he can't just give them to her and have her run off with them. So I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt there, but
I think we should give the movie credit for that, for not knowing,
right.
for not being predictable in that sense.
So since you set it up, I'll let you bring it home.
Yeah, so they do go visit the crime scene, and she throws up, and he comes to her hotel room seemingly to check on her, and maybe to also offer the advice of like, hey, you might be getting in too deep with this one. I don't know. And then earlier in the movie, they had shared a cigarette together. So, he asked for another cigarette. They smoked together. And I had wrote it. Here is how I had it in my notes. Never mind. I'm not going to read it that way. At first, he seems like he's just going to hit on her. He's just going to make a pass at her. She makes it very clear, no, that's not happening. And then it gets very intense. One of the most intense scenes of the movie. I have it as the second most intense scene of the movie. It might be number one, but he essentially says, what are you going to do if I don't leave? Now what? And I almost thought it was going to get worse than it got, but he does leave.
I was terrified. And then he even goes as far as to say, who are you going to call, the police? Yeah,
he literally said, who are you going to call, the police? Yeah, that was rough. The only other scene I had that maybe was more tense than that, I forgot earlier in the movie. We know about the killer. I don't even know if we know the killer. I don't know if she knows the killer rides a bike, but she's kind of walking down a dark alley, and a bike is following her. And at first it's like, ooh, this is very thriller-esque. And then it gets like almost to the next level of like, oh shit, this is scary.
Yeah, because I think she might have, because she started talking to people, and I want to say the lady whose daughter was killed, mentions a guy on a bike.
Yeah,
or something.
I think you're right.
She said that her friend mentioned him, and then she goes and talks to the guy that was. And we saw this guy earlier in the movie, a guy who like cleans up in the circle.
Yeah,
or in the square, wherever the area where people are getting picked up, and we see him watching the killer early in the movie, and then she goes and talks to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the guy. Like he looks like this, da 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 da." But he also makes it clear, I don't want to actually talk to the police. Like I'm giving you this information, but I'd rather not deal with no police.
Right. Yeah, and he straight up told her, you know, he's every Thursday night he's on a bike. Yeah, and then she's being chased down the alley. That scene was also very tense.
Yeah.
That might be all the notes I have with her until we get to the scene where
the big one.
Yeah. So she finally takes it upon herself. She does know where he's at every Thursday night. She knows, you know, if someone would go out there and dress up, pretend to be a prostitute, he would pick him up. And she tells her journalist friend, and he's like, "One, no, we are not doing that, but let's call the cops." Well, she's already had the interaction with the cop where he made the pass on her. And she never makes that part clear, but she's just like, "No, we can't trust him. No, we have to do this without him." So she decides, you can come with me or not, but it's time. We've got to try to catch him. So she dresses up, kind of, I guess, to her idea what a prostitute would be, and she goes and waits.
I think did she do it twice? I think didn't the first time she went out there.
The first time she went, but I don't think she was actually hoping to be picked up. I took it as she was wanting to see it for herself. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I interpreted it.
After the fact, I think I got caught on to that too. Like she went and watched and took notes because she like picked up some of the language to use when a guy picks her up.
Yeah, and I think she'd been out there maybe even more times than we saw, because the other journalist makes the comment like, "We can't wait here every night. He's not going to come." And she goes, "No, he'll come. Like we just got to keep, you know, but he'll pick us up." And
I don't think the first time she went was a Thursday either.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But like the next time she comes out, she's got the lipstick and she wears appropriate clothes, and he pulls up to her.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. At first, I wasn't sure if they were just gonna. I didn't know how far that was gonna go, because at first she's like, "No, I'm not getting on. You know, leave me alone." And then she agrees, and she hops on the bike.
And that was part of her observation, because the other girl hesitated as well. And
you're right.
The other girl asked, like, "Do you have money?" And so she asked him, "Show me the money."
You're right. Earlier in the scene, the first one he picks up, she asks for money, and then the bigger girl flat out says, "No, get out of here." Right. And then she says something about money, and I still don't think she cares. But then he mentions drugs, and she's like, "Okay, I'll come." But yeah, you're right. She sat back, observed, and really used all the lingo and did everything that the other girls were doing.
And he was so distracted by the fact that he just wanted to kill somebody that he didn't catch on. Like, she wasn't perfect at her depiction. You could tell she was very uncomfortable.
Right.
But he knew what he wanted, and he just needed her to get on that bike.
Yep.
Which he got.
Yeah. Takes her back to his house and everything. And at first things are fairly chill. Like they
wait, before you get there, the other journalist trying to follow them while he's on the bike.
Oh, I don't know how I blew. That's like as big of a, that's very, very important. My fault.
Did you catch on to anything with that bike ride?
I don't know that I did.
Okay. So again, he's on the bike. He's weaving in and out of streets. The other journalist is trying to follow him. I lost him eventually. I'm pretty sure the route he took was the same route he took his son joyriding on earlier in the movie.
I did not notice that.
Like, I'm pretty sure.
I bet it is. I didn't notice that. That's a good eye.
Which is sick.
It is. But
again, he seemed to understand that he needed to weave in and out of streets in case somebody was following him.
Agreed, because I don't think anyone he didn't know he was being followed. It's not like, I got to lose this guy. The guy in the car, the other journalist, just couldn't keep up because, like you're saying, I think he was smart enough to know, like, I've got to take these routes and stuff in case someone were to follow me.
Right. So it worked. Even though he didn't know that the guy was there, but his crazy route that he took was enough to shake the guy. And so he gets her back to the room, and I was terrified again at this point.
I was too, and it was interesting that it was not a slow burn, but it did build up because at first they almost have a little banter with each other. Like they get to the room and he's like, all right, sit down in there, make yourself at home. And she's like, in the dark? And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Let me cut the lights on for you. And she's smoking a cigarette. And like, there's almost a little bit of banter before, shit hits the fan.
Yeah. I want to say he offered her a drink, or she asked for a drink or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just a cigarette. I don't remember, but yeah, like they got comfortable.
Yeah. And then I'll let you take it from here. He goes ahead and starts,
So I think, did she go to the bathroom first?
She did ask to go to the bathroom, but I don't is that
I think she did, and that's where they like show us or remind us that she has a knife, I think.
Yeah, she went to the bathroom and she was when did she get the knife? Did she just have it with her?
Maybe took it with her the whole time.
Okay.
It was in her purse, I think, but I guess so. Yeah, like you said, he comes over and gets to work, if you will.
Yeah.
She pulls out the knife. He gets it out of her hand. He had her. I thought he was about to kill her.
He had her. Like it was within seconds of being a wrap. And she noticed earlier in the movie, one of the girls had did she bite his hand? So she had hurt his hand somehow.
He fell down the steps.
Oh, carrying the dead body.
Yes.
Yeah. So she noticed his injured hand and she just bit his hand.
Yeah. And pressed on his injury. He lost his grip.
Yep.
And I think at that point she did get the knife.
Yeah, and she was also smart enough. She had tried to make it out the door, wasn't able to. So she goes the opposite way to the window and just starts yelling. And people very clearly take notice.
Right.
And now she has the upper hand. She's like, you're going to let me out of here. Unlock the door, step away. And he obliges. He opens the door for her. She tells him, lock yourself in the bathroom. And she's able to get away.
Like I said, I was terrified during the scene. I didn't know if she was gonna live. I didn't know how he was gonna react. I didn't know she was gonna have to kill him.
Right. Earlier in this, I'd mentioned that I thought of it in a Zodiac type of way, and it really reminded me. I don't know how familiar you are with Zodiac, even though that movie is 13 and a half hours long. I watch it like once a year, but there's a really, really, really good scene in the movie Zodiac where he thinks he might know who the Zodiac killer is. He goes to this guy's house. They go down to his basement, and there's this very good, very creepy scene where you're like, "Oh shit, he is the Zodiac killer. You're about to die right now." And like I thought it really matched that level of tense and creepiness.
Yeah, and I'm glad we didn't have to do a ton of cat and mouse with it. Like she set the bait once, as far as we saw, and got picked up immediately. Like I'm glad they didn't play around with us there. She gets away.
What I was not expecting is she does get away, and I made a note. I don't remember the exact runtime of this movie, but at 1 hour and 15 minutes, I put, how is there still so much time in this movie? Are the cops not going to believe her? Because there's still like a solid 40 minutes of this movie after he gets caught and the police come to his house the next morning. They pick him up and they take him to jail.
Yeah. So this is where the movie deviates tremendously from what we are used to.
Yes.
So the first thing, his wife immediately sides with him.
Immediately.
The neighborhood is on his side.
She sides with him. They're riding with that dude. Like she's on his side, but they are riding with that dude.
Like they're giving him free groceries at the grocery store.
Yep.
People are delivering stuff to the house. Like
he's got like apparently high up religious figures coming to see him and telling him like, we got you, fam. Like you're not, don't worry. We got you.
And he starts smelling himself.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the first time I can ever think of a movie like this where you're like, is he going to get away with this? Like in what other movie? Because not only has he murdered 16 people, he's very openly like it was 16. And because at one scene, he's in the courtroom And the judge asked her, like, so you're admitting to murdering all 17 of these women? And he's like, no, I murdered 16. And they said, well, who murdered the 17th? And he goes, I don't know. It must be a coward. Otherwise, they would admit to it like I did with the other 16. Like, it's not a matter of like, oh, what me? Like, he's very openly, I murdered 16 women. And the entire town is like, that's our boy. We got you.
Pretty much. And he begins like, hey, these women were sullying our streets. They were out here being dirty women, and I cleaned it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right. They were wrong. So that was a lot. And like you said, for a while it was not looking good. I thought for sure he was getting away. I was like, this is why they're making this movie, because
right. I talked myself into it as well. I was like, damn, he's gonna get away. It finally, or I don't know.
We can jump.
Are we ready to get? Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess we'll get to the point where they go through the trial and everything, and like you said, people in the neighborhood are supporting them. Even higher up, like religious figures, are supporting them, and they get ready to do the sentencing. They do find him guilty.
Super guilty.
They find him super guilty. And he goes back to his jail cell, and I guess we don't know exactly who these two figures are, but one of them we know is his friend who had lent him the car earlier in the movie. And then the other one, just from what I gathered, was just a very high up religious figure, I guess.
Right.
And they tell him, hey, don't worry. This is all for show. One thing I didn't understand, they sentence him to like 4 life sentences, X amount of years in jail, but also I don't ever remember them saying execution.
They definitely said no. They said like 12 death sentences or something like that. Like,
okay, I took that as like a life sentence.
Yeah, they
that
were
kind of thing.
Like,
okay, gotcha.
They gave him multiple death sentences.
Yeah, so he's gonna be executed.
And like 100 lashes. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't forget the 100 lashes.
Yes, but they come to him and they tell him, hey, don't worry. That's what the public thinks. But when it's time for your execution, they're going to take you away and they're going to put you in a car. And they're going to send you wherever you're going to be just fine. You can't tell anyone. Don't even tell your wife. But like, that's what's happening. And he's like, bet. All right, let's do it. But then we get the scene where the prison guards or whatever take him to where he's supposed to go, and the 2 journalists are there. They're going to be witnesses. Right. And she's like, hey, he doesn't look like someone who's received 100 lashings. And they're like, you're right, we haven't given him his lashing. So they take him to a room and they just hit a whip up against the wall and make him pretend like he's gotten the lashings. And at this point I was fully convinced this man is still alive. This man is still alive.
Is running the streets. Like I just knew he was out there. Like he might be here. Like as far as I knew at that point, they got me. They got him too.
Yeah, it became the most satisfying ending to a movie ever, though.
100%. Because again, like at this point, I'm like, holy crap! Like this dude really get away with it.
Yes.
And then they walk him into the little room, and I have to ask your interpretation of this scene because.
I was going to ask for yours.
Okay, well, we'll see. So they're walking him through, and again, he's been told he's going to walk out the back door. So he's walking through the room. He like sees the news. He's like, haha. Like they got the fake news. Like, wow, they're really pulling out all the stops.
And I'm sitting there thinking, like, do they have a body double? Like, how are they doing this?
That's what I was like.
The girl asked, she's like, all right, we get to witness this. And they're like, no, there's already witnesses there. We will let you examine the body afterwards.
Right.
So I'm already thinking, like, do they have a body double? What's happening here?
I was thinking that too. I was like, how are they going to convince her that this is him? Like,
right. And then the guards make a pimp decision. You're not going anywhere. You're getting on the platform.
Now you said they made a decision. I that's the part I want an interpretation on, because he's beginning to walk past, and then some soldiers come in that door that he thinks he's about to walk out of, and like suddenly he's jerked back toward the noose.
Right.
I didn't know because they mentioned like people from, I guess, the Capitol or something were there. I didn't know if the plan was to take him to the car, but then the like soldiers from the Capitol were there to make sure he got killed, and other people were like, oh, there goes that plan. Sorry, you got to die, buddy. I couldn't tell if that's what was happening or if the plan all along was to make him not realize that they were going to kill him.
That's 1000% what I came into this podcast with. One thing I had to ask you, and it was this: I couldn't tell. The only reason that makes me think it may have been the guards was when they do that, it shows another guard off to the side, and he kind of has this look on his face, like he kind of nods his head, or like, yes, we're not letting him get away. But then again, to your point, they may have just been telling him all that stuff to keep him cool. You've already done enough damage. You've got all these supporters in the city. We don't need you speaking, because he had done multiple interviews. He even does an interview with the journalist herself. And he's like, you caught me. That was a good one. And she's like, do you have any remorse? And he's like, not in the slightest. I killed 16. If it wouldn't have been for you, there were hundreds that I had my eyes on. I was going to continue to do this. So it very well may have just been them telling him that to keep him quiet. I don't know.
And that's definitely where my other possibility was. But like, as you mentioned with the interview with the journalist, he even teases her about if he had been successful in killing her, like he'd still be out there. Which is just crazy. But again, he's in the back of his head, he's like, whatever, I'm about to get away anyway. And he shut up for the most part. He didn't tell his family. He gets mad at his son for crying. He's like, you're supposed to be the man of the house.
Right. I still wanted his son to pop off and be like, what, look at the situation you're in.
Right. Like, you're gonna get mad at me for not being the man of the house, like you're about to get executed. Right. Really?
Right.
Well,
he didn't know. He just cried. They do execute him though, which had to be the most satisfying. Like, okay, good deal.
Yeah, I needed that. So I was glad he did. I mean, it sucks. It feels weird to say it, but I was glad they did actually execute him. And like, as he's being taken there, he's like, wait a minute, what? I was lied to. Like, you can't do this to me. Blah blah blah. I was like, dude, you killed 16 people. Like,
right. That was an amazing. Getting to, again, it feels weird to have satisfaction from it, but to see his oh shit moment was great.
Yeah, like it almost made it better that it wasn't clear that was going to happen at first.
Absolutely.
And I hope that's how it really played out, because these guys was a piece of shit.
I do too. After that, all we really had. Sorry, I'm just taking over. I'm navigating us now. I'm sorry.
I'll say there's two other things I wanted to hit. So let's see where you're going.
So after that, the two journalists go their separate ways, and she actually does give him a kiss on the cheek. But that was the end of that.
Threw him a bone,
yeah. And then, so like we said, they've been doing some interviews, and they've been recording some of them, and we get, I don't know who's doing it at this point. Oh shit! Something else we didn't talk about. I'm sorry.
It was both of them together. She was doing the questions, and he was holding the camera.
That's what I thought it was. She talks to the wife, and the wife. Again, we've mentioned supported him, but she's still her only what's the word I'm looking for? Not reservation, but like her one problem with it wasn't what he was doing, more so than she makes the comment of like, I just don't know why he felt like he needed to be the one to be doing this. But he was doing the Lord's work. We're proud of him. He did a good job. Those women deserved it. And Shorty pops off and she's like, did I deserve it? Because I was one of them. And she's like, well, that's what you get for dressing that way. You shouldn't have been out there. And then she talks to the son. And the son at first, I felt like, I don't know. I feel like he started off not as extreme as he was by the end of it. At first, he was just like, that was my father doing that. But like, someone needed to be doing it,
He saw how people reacted to his father.
Yeah.
And he liked that.
Yeah. 1000%. Because by the end of the movie, the final scene is him explaining everything that his father did, how he would do it. And he made the comment, people ask me, am I going to carry out my father's work? I tell him, we'll just see, who knows? But someone's going to do it. It might not be me. It might be me, but someone's going to do it.
He's got
a bunch of followers, and someone's going to carry out this.
He said it like he was brawny, like,
dude, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like he was brawny, like, oh, am I gonna be, well, we'll see. Time will tell.
It was the sickest part though was when he demonstrates on his little sister.
Dude, that was yeah.
Did. And like the little girl is like laying on the carpet, and like she's supposed to be getting wrapped up, and she's like, "I'm dead." Like,
all of that was him demonstrating on her, and even though he wasn't doing it, like he was putting his neck on or his knee on her neck, and just all of that, and then her joking along with it. Just all of that was rough.
Yeah, that was a lot, and I think it was sending a message. I think that was the kind of part of the message of the film as well, is like, even though this guy did get executed, a lot of people supported him. They're still out there. He has a son who, I would imagine they didn't make this up, has alluded to potentially carrying on the mantle. This was early 2000s. It's been 20 some years. He's an adult now. He's in his 30s probably.
Right. Yeah, that was also my takeaway from it. Like, yes, it is a happy story that this man got caught and he wasn't able to murder, hundreds of more women, but we've seen how the rest of the community felt about it. We know he has all these supporters, all these people on his side, thought he was doing the right thing. It's not just a matter of his son might want to continue to do this. Like, everyone agreed with him. Who's to say that someone else just didn't start doing it? Or like, it is one of those, yes, it is kind of a happy ending because we did catch the guy, but the struggle we've been talking about women this entire time, guess what? Nothing really improved.
Right. Like, we got this guy off the streets, but the conditions are ripe for another him to pop up.
1000%. And even if it isn't someone murdering prostitutes, it's still women. That's how people are seeing women and everything.
Right. I think that's all I really had as far as going through the spoiler section, but I think we both seem to latch on to the same things here in this one. I think we both made it clear we really enjoyed it. Any parting thoughts?
No, I thought it was really, really good. Again, I thought the pacing was really, really good for a movie that long. It really didn't feel like there was just a lot of stories to tell, and I thought they told them all really well. It didn't really ever feel like, oh, we didn't need that scene.
It was an interesting case where, like you said, the crime thriller portion of it was like a long episode of Law and Order.
Yeah.
The crime thriller portion of it is over by the hour 15 point, which most people that would be the movie. And then we get the justice side.
Yes, and I'm someone I love courtroom dramas, so I thought that was really cool. I love that kind of stuff.
Right. So we get an inside peek of, first of all, their justice system. We get an inside peek of, I don't know, the way we had no idea. I'm assuming you didn't have any idea about the.
No, I'm right. I was right there with you.
I had no idea where it was going from there. So like, you get the crime mystery, and then on the back end, it's still a mystery. Like, you have no idea what type of sentence he's capable of getting. You don't know if he's getting off. Even when it looks like he might be convicted, you don't know if he's actually going to be executed. Like,
right.
You get the hour 15, you're enraptured, and then the chase, and then the last 40 minutes, you're enraptured and figuring out what's actually going to happen to him. So like you said, with the pacing, that fact of it worked perfectly, because even though it's a long movie, you kind of get two movies in one.
Yeah, 100%.
With that all said, I don't know how long we've been on here at all.
A minute. We're always not long for us necessarily, but
don't know how long we've been on here. There was a lot to get to. Again, I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be watching the Oscars next year. I'm going to be watching out for this one to be on the short list for best international feature, and then eventually making that a final list. I definitely think it's going to be a contender for sure.
I hope so. I'm definitely would love to see it on there, and I'm definitely rooting for it.
All right. Well, if nothing else, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next as far as reviewing. I think the Silent Twins just got put on Peacock, so I'm definitely going to watch that. I may or may not do a review. We'll see. I've been saying that I'm going to do a big catch-up podcast where I review, or I not necessarily review, but do like little quick hitters on shows and movies that I've watched over the past few months that I have not done reviews for. We'll see if that happens. But until next time, whatever that next time is, peace.